Welcome back to Bandwagon fans. I'm Jeff, and tonight I'm joined by my good friend
Scott Griessel. Hey everybody.
And we are actually kind of on location here in Scott's studio. This is where the Creatista magic happens. So we're just kind of hanging out here tonight, and we just came back from watching Avengers: Infinity War.
And it's late, actually.
It's really late
because it was a pretty long movie.
It's a very long movie. This is my third time watching this particular movie, third night in a row. And for Scott,
my first time, not ever with a superhero movie, but first time we were trying to figure out maybe since the 1970s that I've seen a superhero.
I think we put it down at the Michael Keaton Batman movies.
Yeah.
So
and
either late 80s or early 90s,
probably,
depending on which one you saw. So
I think like Superman, I think of Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
So
if you're watching this, you know Avengers: Infinity War is the 19th Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I've seen all of them at least twice, and he has seen none of them. So the purpose of this discussion is for somebody who has no knowledge of the history of these movies. Can they make any sense out of this particular movie, which is waste no time trying to bring people up to speed? So we're going to start off with, can you give us a quick rundown of the plot and who the main characters are of Avengers: Infinity War?
Okay, my synopsis of the Avengers: The Infinity War, not wars, the Infinity War.
So right now it's just a war.
It's just one war. Is that there's this dude named Thanos who's really big, and he's done like some seriously bad stuff leading up to this movie, because it starts and lots of people are dead and apparently at his hands, but he sees that as a good thing because he has some reason he's trying to kill half the people. We were talking, it's very sort of Malthus, population control.
Thomas Malthus, a couple people have called him like the ultimate environmentalist.
Right.
An eco-terrorist. Thanos the eco-terrorist.
So basically then what happens is it proceeds from this beginning point with Thanos, and then lots of celebrity superheroes have lots of cameos where they try to make Thanos not get these glowing mostly primary color, but sometimes secondary color rocks, which were apparently created for no real reason at the beginning of time and space and the Big Bang, but each of them, like one has to do with the soul and one has to do with time, and there are other sort of elemental things. He already has one that he keeps on his fist, and he needs to get 5 others, and if he gets all 5 of these, then he will be able to make half of the living creatures, apparently not trees and things like that, but like sentient living creatures. He can make half of the living creatures in the universe sort of evaporate. And so then none of the Avengers, who apparently are all friends with each other, so I didn't know this, but they all, like, they somehow sort of know each other, or they have like radio communication or something, because they all know to go, like when one's fighting, then another one will show up and help them. And I didn't quite figure out how sometimes they would just be on like some planet, and there would happen to be another Avenger there who would help them with a fight. And so they do that, and then Chris Pratt says some funny stuff, and there's a raccoon, and that was cool, and there's a tree, and there's like a praying mantis woman. I think praying mantis. Anyway, she has, like, she's mantis.
It's just mantis.
Just mantis, okay. And then it proceeds from there. There's lots of fighting. Benedict Cumberbatch has an American accent, which was surprising. And they end up through really I would say, like, personality faults more than losing fights, giving Thanos rocks along the way. But part of it is because they make sort of human decisions, like, oh, don't kill that guy, I'll give you the rock, so don't kill that guy, and instead kill half the people in the universe, and here, have one of these rocks. And in the end, the guy gets all of the rocks, and then half the sentient creatures in the universe disappear.
Yep.
And that's pretty much I mean, that's kind of the story.
So, I know this will be in the title. This is a spoiler-filled.
Yeah, if you didn't get that was a spoiler, since I just said what the end was.
Yeah. So overall impressions. Did you enjoy it? Were you able to follow it?
Yeah, I actually was surprised how much I liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was, I think we were talking in the car on the way back, it was relentless. So I like caper movies.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of like a Guy Ritchie movie that just it just jumps into it. And then there's no any sort of what we would call rising action.
Right.
There's not. The action has risen at sort of every point. So literally, they're standing in somebody in Doctor Strange. That's Cumberbatch, right? They're standing in Doctor Strange's room, and at his oddly palatial house. And then they talk to him, and then all of a sudden a breeze starts to blow, and they're bad guys in New York. I mean, it's everything they get someplace. I think that there were one or two times where they had a conversation that was more than a minute long before something happens, and there's some really beautiful, epic fight because the graphics and stuff are just just unimaginably good. Yeah, the stuff is really good.
I think this is the second most expensive movie ever made.
I can see why.
Yeah. And what you're talking about as far as no rising action, everything. I think it was necessary considering how you're pulling stuff from 8 different movies, all into this one thing, and there's no time. It's 2 hours 37 minutes. There's no time for exposition or character development, except for Thanos.
Because you should know who the character. I'm guessing that the audience, and by sort of listening, we can talk about this too. The audience a little bit, they all know. I don't know the backstory, but I was able to actually access the movie without really knowing everybody's backstory.
And that's a really interesting point. That's what in my other reviews, the thing I kept bringing up is if somebody had not seen. If somebody came in and saw Black Panther because that drew in a different audience than most Marvel movies, or because this movie is so big, a lot of people are going to go see it just because it's the big thing. How many of those people are going to be just completely lost? And it's nice to know that that you could actually jump in and follow it, even if a lot of the inside baseball stuff probably went over your head.
There were definitely jokes that I didn't get, and there were references to things that had happened. It's oh, you lost your eye.
Yeah.
Apparently everybody knew how he lost his eye, but I didn't know how he lost his eye.
Not only how he lost the eye was a reference to a previous movie, but the eye that he was given was a reference to a previous movie. I compared it to Shakespeare. A novice could watch A Midsummer Night's Dream and enjoy it, but it's not going to get every joke, because it's just in a different language. Does this make you want to watch other MCU movies, Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, to get caught up?
No.
All right. So you did.
But that's okay. I actually it doesn't. What it doesn't make me is it doesn't make me not want to watch
the next ones.
Other ones. And I've always, because we're friends and we talk about this stuff. I've always been kind of a little skeptical of the superhero genre, and I think I actually gained a little bit more of a respect for it. Okay, it's trying to be in some ways what I would say sublime isn't the right word, but it was trying in some ways to have these themes that were these big sort of epic themes. And I think it kind of fails at that, because the epic themes are so big, but they're so simple. But I think, I'm guessing from a comic book standpoint, which is that it really is simple in a lot of ways. Not that the storyline isn't complex, because the storyline was super complex. But I still like that. It's almost like the first Star Wars movie, which I did happen to see, the very first one from 1970, whatever.
I think we pegged it as you've seen Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
I saw that was right.
And you haven't seen a Star Wars movie since.
And I haven't seen a Star Wars movie since then. But that was like the first Star Wars. It's like really epic, good, bad. So I get that. I mean, I'm not saying anything nobody knows.
Right.
I'm saying things that I didn't kind of know.
Spoiler alert for Star Wars. There's good people and bad people.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So let's see. Was there from the movie? Were there any lingering questions you had? Stuff that like just didn't make sense that you wanted to ask? Not that I'm an expert, but
right.
I do know this. I do know the MCU fairly well.
There were like 100 stories. Like there's a guy in maybe Scotland, but then magically in Africa. Okay, is Africa, is that a planet or is that actually Africa?
So it is the fictional country of Wakanda.
Okay.
In Africa.
Okay, but in our world.
Yes,
okay.
that's yeah.
I couldn't tell if that was just some crazy other planet.
No,
that was a lot like Africa.
It's a fictional country that has immense wealth and is actually the most technologically advanced country in the world, but they've secluded themselves from the rest of the world. So
and they have the dome. Is the dome another, like over their city? Was that?
That's just over their city, yeah. But there's a whole nother, like their whole land is shrouded from the rest of the world.
Gotcha.
And that's Black Panther that just came out a couple months ago.
Right.
And they just, at the end of that movie, they're opening themselves up, which is where the joke came from. When you said we were going to open our country, I thought you meant the Olympics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I heard that joke. And the joke was actually even, I mean, it sort of made sense, but I didn't know at that point what it referred to. How much of like this superhero stuff happens in space? Because I'm going to tell you, like, and when I say space, I mean like space. Because I thought superheroes defended America or maybe the world, or maybe like possibly like they defended like our solar system. But apparently it turns out that superheroes have a bigger realm of influence.
So with both Marvel and DC, there's always been a cosmic element, and Marvel in particular. I mean, you got to remember this line of Marvel comics started at the start of the space race.
Okay.
So right beginning with Fantastic Four, there's always been a cosmic element of going out to space. In the movies, you're really talking Guardians of the Galaxy. And then, but Thor, they've kind of, it's called retconning, where they've kind of changed his origin, even within the movies. So initially, the first Thor movie, they were basically advanced aliens that would visit the Earth, and they were so advanced people thought they were gods. And then by the third movie, they were like, no, these are straight up gods. But it's still a space planet.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and are these like, are the superheroes, are they immortal? Or do they just like, are they just like the Energizer Bunny, where they're just like so hard to kill that they just keep going and going?
Yeah, we're gonna find out in the So no, theoretically they're not immortal. And one of the criticisms of the Marvel movies is that nobody ever dies.
Okay.
Obviously,
Until
in
now.
Infinity War, there is death. They saved up all the death for one movie.
Right.
And there's probably going to be some mechanism. There's some speculation that Doctor Strange will probably be, even though he disappeared, he will probably be a big part in bringing everybody back.
And rebooting.
Or in some way they get the Infinity Gauntlet from the gauntlet from Thanos, but. That's what the next movie's for. That's what we'll find out next.
So what's his deal anyway? Is Doctor Strange? I really didn't much under. He's sort of like mystical. Sort of has kind of an Eastern sort of feel to what he does.
So Doctor Strange, he is the Sorcerer Supreme, the master of the mystical arts. Okay. And he was a mid-60s creation. So this is right in the middle of the New Age. the emergence of New Age stuff, and he is steeped in if you go back to those comics, it is pure psychedelia. So it is that Eastern, not really Eastern, it's Eastern through California.
Gotcha.
Mysticism, heavily into psychedelics. And if you go back and watch the Doctor Strange movie, which came out November of 2016, very much like Inception. The world folding in on itself, other dimensions, and that's really Doctor Strange is able to go to different dimensions and pull stuff out of it.
And that was Benedict Cumberbatch as well. So he's the modern day. Or they probably haven't. I've never heard of a Doctor Strange movie before.
There was a made-for-TV movie. It was actually supposed to be the pilot for a TV series that just became a movie because it was going nowhere.
Didn't get picked up.
And Marvel's history of movies is just god-awful. So you probably remember the early Spider-Man TV movies.
Kind of.
Yeah, just crawling on the wall and
they'd shoot it sideways and then
So you had those. There was an early Doctor Strange movie. The early Captain America movies are just they're laughably bad. The first Fantastic Four movie, actually every Fantastic Four movie has been pretty bad.
Well, I think too. I mean, if you think about it, at the time when they were doing that, I mean, they have the benefit now of so much really great CGI that they didn't have back then. So I would guess they were probably planning for a little bit more camp.
It wasn't too definitely campy. They didn't. The people that were making them weren't taking them seriously. It was supposed to. It really wasn't until the first Superman. The Christopher Reeve Superman, that anybody said this genre can be for adults as well. So, but it's been a pretty weird history of film, especially for Marvel.
All of the sort of henchmen, henchwomen that Thanos has. Do we know all them too? Are they they have some there's the kind of wizard that doesn't have a nose. Yeah. And then there's the woman that's got she looks like Pris from Blade Runner. Yeah. She's got that eye thing going, but she also has goat horns.
So this is so that is the Black Order or the Children of Thanos. So as Thanos goes in his lore, as he goes and wipes out planets, and I think in the comics he's total annihilation.
Okay.
In the comic books he's actually in love with death.
Okay.
He's trying to. There's an actual personification of death, and he's in love with her, and he is trying to impress her. So he just kills everybody to win a chick. So the Children of Thanos is actually a more recent creation. I think 2013. I'm not a big comic reader anymore. I'm just doing research for this movie. So they just came out in 2013, and they are now established in the comics books. I could name 3 of them. I don't know who the 4th one is.
They don't seem to have any I think one of the. Watching it critically, one of the sort of plot holes, they don't really seem to have any skin in the game, and yet they are ready to sort of fight to the death for Thanos. So they actually come across as that you sort of think of that sort of that henchman role, that they're sort of blind followers, and maybe it's just because they're evil too, and they like being around evil.
Well, all of them had half of their planets wiped out at some point by Thanos. It's just like Gamora. He wiped out half her planet and then took her as his daughter, and Nebula. Okay. Nebula, the female who was pulled apart. Right. Yeah. So, I don't know. Any other thoughts about it, or?
No, I mean, I guess the last thought that I had is that I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I anticipated that I would. There were moments where it kind of lost me, and I think because of the fact that the lore isn't important to me because I don't know it. Right. When they actually did take 2 minutes to have a conversation in between, then I kind of got bored because there's nothing about it that's just like, I think people are there to see like superheroes fighting, and they want them to win or whatever, so they're vested in what happens. But it really is just visually just packed. I mean, I think when we walked out of the theater, I said, like, I'm a little bit overwhelmed with just how much of it is just, we were sitting relatively close, and it's just like, stuff is just coming at you.
It's overwhelming, even for people that know what's going on and are steeped in the lore. It's almost more overwhelming for us. So I'm going to set the scene for you. We're in the third row, so we are very close to the screen. Scott is to my left.
Figuring out, by the way, how to operate the little thing for my feet to come up.
He's having never seen these, and to my right was a woman who was squealing with delight.
She was
just about every 30 seconds. She's fist pumping. She's reaching over and grabbing her husband and shaking him,
clapping.
And I'm just sitting there. I'm in between them, just kind of looking over her, looking at him, and just laughing at just.
And I probably just looked confused.
How differently they were experiencing this movie. So, did it impact you emotionally at all? When people started dying, did you give a shit?
No, I didn't. And it's like there's one, like, spoiler, there's one death. The death of Gamora is probably the most, is actually the only death that doesn't happen in an almost instantaneous way, where it's not just like there's a fight and she dies. And it's very, it's sort of epic and biblical, right? I mean, it's like Abraham taking Isaac off into the, into the woods to sacrifice him, because essentially the same kind of thing happens here. And Thanos, they kind of play me, he has a little bit of a tear, but he's still a jerk and still throws her over. And like, and she's a love interest for the Chris Pratt character, who is, what would his...
Star-Lord.
Or
Peter Quill,
Right. So so you would think, because they just had this moment and whatever, you would think that like that would draw some emotion, but it's flat. I mean, probably unless you're steeped in that deeper, longer lore of where she came from.
I think probably the biggest criticism for me about the movie is, and I am steeped, at least in the movies, and all the deaths were kind of flat.
Yeah.
Gamora's in particular, the only person reacting to her death was Thanos, and I don't relate to him at all.
Right.
So there was nothing to really feed off of on screen. Whereas if Star-Lord had been there, you would have empathized with him.
Right.
And then at the end, when everybody starts dying, it's just it's too much to react to.
Yeah.
People just start dropping left and right.
Yeah.
Except for Spider-Man. That one, they took a moment to really lock in on Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was trying to hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, and then Groot. And again, both of those had somebody on screen that you could empathize with.
Right.
So
yeah, there was somebody kind of watching that happen who was sort of powerless to do anything about it.
Note to filmmakers: if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, it doesn't make a noise.
Yeah.
And if somebody dies, there's nobody there to witness it, then nobody cares.
Yeah. And I think clearly too, I mean, you do get that these are comic book characters, and so at some level, I mean, you're just not as invested in them, because they are kind of, to me, watching the movie the one time, they're kind of expendable.
Yeah, so you might flood the comment section right now.
Okay.
Because for the fans of comic books,
right?
For some people, these are characters that they've been watching and they've literally grown up with.
Right.
For me, it's not. I took a huge break. I read comics until the early 90s, and then I've dropped off and then picked up with the movies 10 years ago. So there are people that are very vested. Mm-hmm. Woman next to me is very vested in these characters.
Right.
You not so much, and that's understandable. Right. From a filmmaker's perspective, can you even wrap your head around how flippin' hard it was to make this movie?
Yeah, actually I can. And which doesn't mean that I know like every sort of thing, but like a movie like this has to be really, really tight to the storyboards, because otherwise it starts really fast not making sense. And there's so much technically going on. Like I was thinking, there was a shot which is fairly near the end of the movie, and there's the Hulk, but he's wearing like a special suit. He's not Hulk. He's just David Banner,
Bruce
right?
Banner, yeah.
Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he's standing there, and then the raccoon, whose name is Rocket, is there. And then there are a couple of humans, and clearly they were, CGI of Hulk up in the thing, and then the Rocket is the CGI, and then there were humans. And when you think about that, like you can't fake that scene. You have to shoot that scene with the foreknowledge of exactly how it's going to work, and that's what makes it complicated. But in some ways, that probably makes it's an epic accomplishment for sure. But it makes some of that sort of easier, I think, because you actually don't have what that scene needs to look like, and you need to leave a space for the Hulk, and you need to leave, and there are probably some actors sort of sitting there, so that somebody can kind of play off them or something like that. So I think it's just it happens that stuff happens so much more in pre-production, and the fight scenes and stuff, the editors can then take it and move things around. But even the fight scenes, because there's sort of a narrative, and you can't have this building falling down and then the next time the building's standing up, you can't do that. They have to be pretty precise about moving through that stuff. Yeah. And they just have, the credits going by, they just have a boatload of people who are paying attention, not just to, does everything look right? Does the raccoon's hair move the right way, right? But also, is this in continuity? So I think it's difficult, but when you think about it, it's about precision and about working that out. So not superhuman, actually. It wouldn't take a superhero to make the movie. Right. It's just it would be a discipline and a rigor to just make sure that you are just right on top of that.
And from what I've seen in my limited experience, almost nothing goes right.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah.
But so cool. It was fun. I'm glad you got to watch this.
I'm really glad that you invited me to come out and see it, and I do have I think a different appreciation for the genre a little bit. Not that I think that I know even now much about it, other than it was just so much going on.
But yeah, thanks for watching. This is Scott and Jeff. And, we got a whole bunch more movies coming out. So Deadpool, Solo, Jurassic World, which I'm really not looking forward to. But just go ahead and like and subscribe, and keep watching for more videos from us, and get on the bandwagon.
Bye.